America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate.
The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up.
Tonight, the people of Texas have spoken.
We didn't win, but we will continue to be patriots.
Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Jack Fink. Hope you're having a great weekend and welcome to Eye on Politics. History made as America decided. For the first time since the late 1800s, a former president is reelected 4 years after he left office. After his big win on election night, Donald Trump is joining the ranks of Grover Cleveland and heading back to the White House.
Nothing will stop me from keeping my word to you, the people. We will make America safe, strong, prosperous, powerful, and free again. And I'm asking every citizen all across our land to join me in this noble and righteous endeavor. That's what it is.
Vice President Kamala Harris conceded the race Wednesday. Her campaign was just 107 days long because President Biden made history of his own, changing his mind about running for a second term, 56 years after the last president who made the same decision, Lyndon Baines Johnson.
This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves. This is a time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged for the sake of freedom.
In the Texas Senate race, Republican Ted Cruz won his third six-year term, defeating Democratic Congressman Colin Allred of Dallas after a very expensive and combative race.
I want to say to all of those who didn't support me, you have my word that I will fight for you, for your jobs, for your safety, and for your constitutional rights. But tonight, the people of Texas have spoken. And their message rings clear as a bell across our great state. Texas will remain Texas.
It took courage for each and every one of you and everyone who got involved in this campaign to, even though we haven't won here in Texas in some time, to believe in this election and to put everything you had into it. And it's going to take courage for whatever comes tomorrow and the day after. This country is worth fighting for. Understand that. This state is worth fighting for.
Cruz's victory in Texas was double the margin that was predicted by the polls. He defeated Allred by more than 970,000 votes statewide, 53 to 44%, nearly 9 percentage points. But going into Election Day, he led the Real Clear Politics average of polls by just 4.4 percentage points. While Cruz won statewide, he lost in Tarrant County, the state's largest Republican-led county in the country, by just 1,251 votes. Check out the razor-thin margin. Allred, 48.87%. Cruz, 48.72%. He finished a lot stronger than in 2018, which was a good year for Democrats, when Cruz lost Tarrant County to Beto O'Rourke. Allred won Dallas County, while Cruz won Collin and Denton counties. We spoke with Ross Hunt, a pollster and founder of Hunt Research in Dallas, about Cruz's results in our Big Four counties.
There was a narrative going into the election that maybe the suburbs of Texas generally were trending blue. And I think that certainly isn't the case, even for Senator Cruz, who, of course, was winning Tarrant County coming into early voting, and ultimately only lost it by 0.15%. So I think the first point to make is just that the North Texas suburbs actually seem to be much more Republican than one would expect going into the election. But what you say about the Election Day vote is very interesting, and that's exactly right. We see that Cruz started out with a lead in early voting, but then he lost Election Day by 8 points, and he ended up just barely losing overall. This was very dramatic in Tarrant County because, of course, he had lost it previously. But what happened in Tarrant is actually almost exactly what happened all around the state, where he was only 2 points behind Trump in the early vote, but he was 6 points behind on Election Day. And
why would that be?
Well, part of the clue is in the Libertarian vote. So Cruz falls 3.36 percentage points on average from early voting to Election Day. But Colin Allred only rises 1 point. What does that mean? Well, it means the other votes went to the third party.
In the presidential race in Texas, Trump beat the vice president 56 to 42%. It was the biggest margin of votes in a presidential race in the Lone Star State in 20 years. He beat the vice president by more than 1.5 million votes. To find a bigger margin of victory, you have to go back to the year 2004, when then-President George W. Bush beat Democratic Senator John Kerry by nearly 1.7 million votes statewide. In Tarrant County this year, Trump won by more than 42,000 votes. 4 years ago, in 2020, he lost to Joe Biden by more than 1,800 votes. Trump also won in Collin and Denton counties, but lost in Dallas County in both elections. And Trump expanded his support among Hispanic voters. We see the impact in South Texas. Trump won the counties surrounding McAllen, Brownsville, Laredo along the border this year after losing these same areas by wide margins 4 years ago. As you might expect, Texas GOP Chair Abraham George celebrated the wins by Trump and Cruz.
The Latino voters, I think they were affected by the open border policy than anybody else. Plus, they are very conservative when it comes to family values. So all of that playing along with, the Republican Party of Texas, we put in millions of dollars into South Texas. I was in South Texas personally. I couldn't, at least 20 times over the last few weeks. So they worked hard, the county chairs, the precinct chairs, and this open border policy was a simple, easy target for us to talk about. And overall, Latino voters are starting to see, Republican Party is not the racist party that the Democrats always talk about. We're the party of people who wants to come and do the work and hard work and faith and family. And so Latino voters are going to be the backbone for Republican Party coming to the next cycle.
For months leading up to the election, the polls showed a very tight race, particularly in the 7 battleground states where Trump won. Here's a look at how the political dust settled. In Arizona, Trump is leading Harris by 5.9 percentage points, a bigger margin than the final Real Clear Politics average of polls. Trump was also leading in Nevada by 3.4 percentage points, which was also higher than the Real Clear Politics average of polls. In Georgia, Trump won by 2.3 percentage points, also higher than the polling average. In the Midwest, Trump won 2 states that the vice president was ahead in before Election Day: Wisconsin, where Trump won by 0.8 percentage points, and Michigan, where he won by 1.5 percentage points. In the biggest battleground, Pennsylvania, Trump won by 2 percentage points. And in North Carolina, the former president won by 3.4 percentage points. Looking ahead this week, Republicans in the U.S. Senate, who now regain the majority, will be selecting their new majority leader. And Senator John Cornyn is vying for that position against 2 others, John Thune of South Dakota and Rick Scott of Florida. The other question looking ahead is, will any Texas Republicans serve in the second Trump administration? One name being mentioned to serve as Attorney General is John Ratcliffe, who served as the Director of National Intelligence during part of the first Trump administration. He's also a former North Texas congressman and United States attorney. Another Texas being mentioned is Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller, who is reportedly being considered for the Agriculture Secretary. And we also know Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is also close to Trump. Governor Greg Abbott celebrated the wins by Trump and Cruz. The governor suggested that with Trump's tougher border security policies, the state will likely no longer need to spend billions of dollars to combat illegal immigration.
Texas will have the opportunity to consider repurposing that money for other purposes. It could be for education, could be for property tax cuts, sending it back to the people of the state of Texas.
The governor also said because of Republican gains this election, he says he has 79 votes in the House, 3 more than necessary to pass school choice in the new state legislative session in January. Abbott also said there's enough money to also boost public schools.
We'll have separate pots of money, one for public schools, which we will fully fund, teacher pay raises, which we will fully fund, and then a separate pot for school choice.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick signaled on Friday that school choice would be his top legislative priority in the Senate. In the meantime, Republicans picked up 2 state House seats in Austin and now lead Democrats by an 88-62 lead. One seat the GOP had hoped to flip was the 70th district in Plano, but Democratic incumbent Mihaela Plisa held on to her seat, beating Republican Steve Kennard. The next question at the Capitol, will the current Speaker, Republican Dade Phelan, be able to hold on to the job? North Texas Republican Representative David Cook is challenging him. Members of the House GOP caucus will meet early next month to select their choice. I asked the Texas GOP Chair, Abraham George, about where that race stands.
So majority of the House GOP caucus have signed on to two things. One is electing a Republican speaker from the Republican caucus without the support or any negotiations with Democrats. The other is not putting a Democrat in committee chairs, which is a huge issue for the Texas Republican Party. So majority of them, 48 to be exact, have signed on to that. And I believe in the next week or so, we're probably going to see about another 10 people move over to that side. So it's really not going to be about personality for the party. It's going to be about who is going to stand with our priorities, which is one of them is no Democrat chairs, banning taxpayer-funded lobbying, talking about a school choice, all of those things that party and Texans want. It's going to be the measurement for who's going to be the speaker and who are we going to get behind. We haven't endorsed a candidate yet. We don't know if we're going to do that or not. Our SREC meeting is on December 1st week, so we will see if that's something we will get to have a conversation about.
And just to make sure that I heard you correctly, you said that you're expecting another 10 House GOP members to back David Cook in the next week?
We're expecting about 10 or so to come to an agreement that they will not support a speaker who is going to be putting Democrats in committee chairs. If that's David Cook, that's fine. If it is somebody else, that is okay.
And a fallout from the election, Gilberto Hinojosa, the longtime Democratic Party chair of Texas, announced his resignation Friday. His successor will be named likely next March. And now that the election is over, we wanted to find out how turnout this year compared to the last presidential election in 2020. Sarah Jenkins has the answers in this week's brief.
According to the Texas Secretary of State's office, there were 18.6 million registered voters in Texas for the 2024 election. That's compared to 16.9 in 2020. This year, over 8.7 million people participated in early voting, or a little less than half of the state's registered voters. That narrowly misses the 8.76 million early voters from the extended early voting period in 2020. By early November of that year, over 66% of registered voters had cast their ballots. Overall, more than 11 million voters in Texas cast ballots this election day either in person or by mail, according to preliminary unofficial data. That's not far from the 11.3 million total number of voters in the state in the 2020 general election, but several percentage points lower than in 2020.
Thank you, Sarah. Coming up next, there are 3 new members of Congress going to Washington in January. We'll speak with 2 of them when Eye on Politics returns. Welcome back to Eye on Politics. There will be 3 new members of Congress from North Texas sworn in this January. They are Republican Craig Goldman in the 12th Congressional District, which includes Tarrant and Parker counties, Republican Brandon Gill in the 26th Congressional District in Denton and the northern counties, and Democrat Julie Johnson in the 32nd Congressional District in Dallas and small portions of Collin and Denton counties. Johnson, a current state representative, becomes the first openly LGBTQ member from Congress from the South. I asked her what promises she made on the campaign trail she will focus on in Washington.
I'm so thrilled. I love that title, Congresswoman-elect. It's humbling to have. It's certainly an honor to be elected by such a resounding margin from the residents of Texas 32. I'm humbled by their confidence, and I intend to work very hard. Some of the things that I'm going to be focusing on is healthcare access. It's something I've been working on quite a bit in the Texas legislature. Unfortunately, Texas leads the nation in some undesirable statistics. The highest rate of maternal mortality, women dying after childbirth, the highest rate of infant mortality, children dying after childbirth, the largest amount of people without access to health insurance. So I think healthcare access is clearly something I want to continue to work on. Economic opportunity, we need to, the American dream needs to be full for everyone. We need to create opportunities for spaces for people to get employed. Workers and businesses that I've met with businesses in particular are having a workforce crisis. Hospitals can't hire floor nurses. Auto dealers can't hire mechanics. Construction companies, builders can't hire enough workers. So creating that space for education, training, workforce development is something I really want to focus on. And consumer protection issues. You know, I'm very concerned about our elderly population and financial security for them, and making sure that we have some consumer protections measures placed in place to keep them from being abused financially. And I think immigration also. Immigration goes hand in hand with workforce development. I'm going to really try to deep dive into the visa system.
We're speaking 2 days after Election Day, and the House, we don't know if the House is going to be a Republican majority or a Democratic majority. How's that going to impact how you are able to govern?
Well, I can govern under any majority. If it's a Democratic majority, it'll be the first time I've ever been able to legislate with a Democratic majority and have the ability to I know I have the votes on my side. But all my experience legislating has been with a Republican majority, so I've been in the minority party. That's the only way I have functioned so far, and I've been very effective in that environment. So I think my experience in the Texas legislature will prepare me well if the Republicans do hold the majority and have the trifecta. That's what I'm used to now, and I still have been able to be effective and pass a lot of legislation under that environment. And I'll just take the skills and everything I've learned to the next level and hopefully have the same success.
You won handily in your district, as you said, but nationally and statewide, not a good night for Democrats.
No.
And so I'm wondering, in your estimation, what happened?
You know, I just think Democrats failed to listen and really communicate a strong economic message. You know, I've been thinking about this quite a bit. You know, I really tried in my own messaging to talk about economic opportunity, and I think that's where people are. And, you know, we're still post-COVID. This is our first post-COVID election. And people are still suffering. You know, inflation, when you go to the grocery store and it's $27 for a pack of paper towels, and if you're a minimum wage worker, it takes you 4 hours to earn that, that's a problem. And so I think while the economy has certainly grown and expanded under the Biden administration, I just think Democrats really failed to communicate a strong economic message, and we lost because of it.
Johnson succeeds Congressman Colin Allred, who ran for Senate. Coming up, we'll speak with Craig Goldman about going to Capitol Hill when Eye on Politics comes right back. Republican Craig Goldman is also moving from the state capitol to the nation's capital. When we spoke last week, we didn't know if Republicans or Democrats would have a majority in the U.S. House.
Obviously, as a Republican, I want us best to have a majority. I want to be able to work with President Trump and his administration, and certainly a Republican Senate that we know we're going to have, hopefully a majority leader in John Cornyn. But obviously, it's easier for us to have control of all three branches. And you know, we'll see what happens. But I feel confident that Republicans will maintain majority in the U.S. House. And then we go to work. And we go to work in providing tax relief for the citizens of the United States and securing our border here in Texas. You know, since I've been in the state legislature, we spent over $18 billion on border security. We want that line item in the Texas state budget to go away because it's a federal government's problem. I think with the Trump administration, they'll be able to step up and pay for all the things that we in the state of Texas have so that $18 billion can go back into the taxpayers of the people of Texas.
And Governor Abbott said as much yesterday during a news conference in Tyler that he hopes that will free up money in the state legislature. But I'm wondering, there's also a bill out there, I believe, still that the Congress would reimburse the state of Texas for the money that has been spent. Where are you on that?
They should. I'll be fighting for it. Absolutely. It has been a federal government issue all these years. The people of Texas have had to step up. We in the state legislature have had to step up to fill that gap of the federal government's fault and mistake of not securing our border.
And so you also mentioned tax cuts before, and Congress this year, this coming session starting in January, is going to have to make a decision about whether to make permanent or let the Trump tax cuts from 2017 expire.
Well, I'm certainly going to be voting to make those tax cuts permanent. There's no question. Absolutely. The federal government wastes so much money. And I'm going to be looking forward to going in there. I certainly have a record of fighting for tax cuts to the citizens in Texas. And now I get the opportunity to go to the U.S. Congress and be a fighter for tax cuts for people in the United States of America. Because we absolutely, as a country, spend way too much money. We have a $35 trillion deficit. One, that's ridiculous because we just waste money. We spend money on things needlessly, and we need to provide tax cuts to the people in the United States of America.
How do you plan on making that case?
Cut spending. I mean, I look forward to serving on whatever committee I have, whatever committee I'm given, and I'm honored to serve on any committee that I am.
Do you have any committees that you'd rather be on?
I mean, look, I'm happy to serve on any committee.
But if you had your choice?
Well, look, losing Kay Granger off appropriations matters. It matters to my district strictly because of the people at Lockheed Martin that go build the F-35 every single day. 19,000 men and women do that every single day. That matters to my district. So I certainly want to make sure those federal funds continue to come in to help build the F-35 program.
Goldman succeeds longtime Congresswoman Kay Granger, who is retiring. You can see the full interviews on our website, cbsnewstexas.com. That's all for a busy Eye on Politics this week. I'm Jack Fink. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week. I am listening, and we are listening to you at CBS News Texas. From all of us here, have a great Sunday.